I saw it recently, and it had a connection to a game that I once played. And I thought, so we're going to start with this example. It's actually from two young kids. They're both well-known grandmasters today, Vincent Kamar and Nodirbek Abdusatorov. And they were playing the World Under 12 Championship 5 years ago. So in this position, guys, it is black to move. And I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to think of what black should do.
So this is the U.S. Chess School, and they're joined by the U.S. Chess Women's Club that are doing a class with Grandmaster Irina Krush. I'm muted.
Oh, and one other question. Some people are asking if this is the last U.S. Chess School session. No, we have a bunch. We have them lined up for January already. I just haven't added them to the schedule. We got Sam Shanklin coming. We got a bunch of people. We have a whole new theme for the next 3 months. It's going to be fun.
Oh, wait, there is something in the chat that someone just wrote that. Let me try to find it.
So is black to play in this position, guys? We're just trying to figure out what we
a whole line by
should do here.
Arnov. E3. F takes E3. Queen E4. And after queen D6, king F7. Oh, you're missing, I believe, queen takes F4 there, Arnov. And maybe they could even trade queens. But you're saying king F7, queen C7, king E6, queen C8. Okay, some long line where white loses. Okay, but you know, the longer your lines are, guys, I would just say, Arnab, the longer your lines are, usually the more places we have to make mistakes. Okay, so yeah, you guys have some ideas. I'm getting them. Try to think about, you know, calculate a little bit more because there, of course, there's some very attractive ideas in this position. So calculate a little bit to make sure your idea is really the best.
Yeah, tough one. I don't know what black should do here. We could trade queens, like queen F5 maybe. The white will have queen D6 check. What move? No, I mean, if we trade queens, black is much better.
Another line that goes
probably winning.
E3, F takes, F takes. Knight takes, queen D5. Wait, queen D. Oh, queen. No, but there, white is taking the bishop, right? White's not going queen D6 and then not taking the bishop, right? Yeah. A little correction there.
So Irina, what you're saying is if black pushes the pawn to E3, white will take it again, and then the knight will take it.
Because that's what I'm saying.
If the queen takes the knight, the queen then takes the bishop on D5.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a little tactical problem with E3.
Black to play. Chod czarny.
Okay, someone is asking the question, what's wrong with E3, F takes E3, and F3? Well, Jed, that was actually played in the game.
Nice.
So you are definitely having an interesting idea there that was tempting to Abdusatorov as well. But what is the problem with that? Looks kind of attractive.
Man, we're starting with tough stuff right here. I have no idea what black should do. Maybe queen E6.
Someone is saying H4, but they gotta consider maybe queen G4 there. And then on queen G5, maybe even back with the queen to D7. Some ideas.
I'm thinking
like
queen E6.
E8, queen D6. Okay, so one thing about this move E3 is that after pawn takes F3, I mean, black was obviously counting on the mating attack, right? He thought like pawn takes F3 is impossible because of bishop F3. Well, I can show you guys like probably what black was thinking about. Let me just, press that. So probably he was thinking, okay, if this happens, I'm just winning with this attack, right? The queen is moving in and checkmate is coming.
Yeah, mate.
But there was something he missed, right? Which was that on F3, there's actually this little move.
Wow, really?
And somehow, you know, we gave away a pawn, but we're not directly winning, which is a bit of a problem. Jed is saying, how is this under 12? Well, what are you surprised about, Jed? What's the surprising part? That their ratings are so high? Yeah, it's true. They were very high rated, very young. Yeah.
I mean, these two players are
World
like
Youth under 12
real
championship.
big talents. You know, Noterbeck's already like strong. They're both grandmasters. They're both like Noterbeck's winning all these blitz tournaments, chess.com. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
can't black go f2? Well, black can go f2, but actually this king seems pretty safe, right? I mean, on queen e4, we're going to start giving checks. So I think probably first f3, g takes, and then e3. Wait, f3, g takes, and then e3. Okay, different ideas, yeah? I'm seeing, okay, I'm going to address all of your ideas, guys. Give me 1 second. So someone is saying start with this move. Yeah, this move, unfortunately, is a little bit unattractive, right? I mean, you're putting pawns in the same color as this bishop, and you're also letting out the knight,
Yeah.
you know, white's worst piece. So, I mean, just based on that, you sort of like, even seeing this move, you can just sort of stop, right? Knowing that, like, okay, there's no forced mate. You just made their knight better, so it's not really worth it. What else do we have? Someone is saying e3. Let's take a look at this idea. e3. Oops, I keep doing that. e3, pawn takes, and queen e6. Well, I guess the question is why, what is sort of the concept here? Why give away a couple of pawns? I mean, sure, you can do it, but I mean, you're trading and
Very
letting them take an
forcing,
f4,
yeah.
which is already like at least not so terrible for white.
2 pawns.
Oh, we just got a long line. Who came up with this one? I cannot tell. There we go. But it's a good explanation, and it is the right move. You guys, well, someone came up with this one.
you want me to unmute them so they can talk?
I wasn't sure who said it.
Oh, okay.
1 second, here we go. So when I was looking at this position, guys, I mean, the way my thought process went, right? I was like, okay, e3, obviously a good looking move, but it happens to like not really be winning by force. You know, the problem here is the king position, right? You take a look at the board, you realize like, okay, white has no checks, but in all of these lines, that's white's main idea is to give checks to this open king because their queen is actually quite good. So you have these aggressive pawns, you got this bishop, you really want to attack, right? That's the instinct. I think everyone who looks at this position has that instinct. They want to use that space. They want to use the far advanced pawns and the active pieces in the center to attack. Yes, you're getting it, right? And then you realize, well, you know, if the opponent's queen is the only problem, why not just offer a queen trade?
Nailed
you know,
it.
when I
Nailed
thought
it.
of this move, I was like, that must be it. You know, it's such a simple solution, but very elegant, you know. And the idea is very simple. You fight against your opponent's best piece, and you leave them with the rest of their position, which is pretty much nothing here, right? And they can't really avoid it, because if they avoid it, yes, then the move e3 wins. Yeah, because your queen happens to be excellently placed on that diagonal, so the mate threat just wins the game. And if they have to trade with you, then they're doing really, really badly in this endgame. So Daniel, I mean, to answer your question, yeah, there's just, I mean, since this endgame is so good, why give up a couple of pawns? You know, the pawns on f4 and e4 are quite nice to keep. Okay, why is this move hard to think of, guys? Why is it not so intuitive, this queen e6 move? I would say it's because, you know, usually you don't consider trading off such good pieces for yourself, right? I mean, the queen on e5 just is a great piece. So when a piece is really good, it's not the first thought to like trade it. So in order to come up with that, you have to realize that like, the whole position of whites is that queen. Even though that queen is not about to give me a check right now, but still that's the hope of white, to be able to use that queen in some active way. So then you start getting to this idea of how can I take that away from them. So now, guys, we're going to go to an example. Give me 1 second, from one of my games. This was a pretty important game in my career, I would say. It was from the tiebreak of the Women's World Championship. And I was playing someone who actually I'm very friendly with, Harika Dronavali from India. And I lost my first tiebreak
fix
game
the
with
board.
white, and I needed to win with black, and everything was going really well. Because I mean, the position I have showing you guys here, it's a dream for black. You got the bishop pair on an open board, great pieces, and you know, just excellent winning chances. So it was my turn here, and so the question is what to do.
Okay, so black to play again, guys.
You guys, I see in your chat you were talking about this queen e6 move. Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you're saying. It's like, it's obvious once you switch your mind, you know, to the right sort of focus, right? Which is like, what is keeping my opponent alive in this position? You know, then you can realize you can switch back, you can step back with your queen and kind of switch from attack mode to, you know, just winning the clearly better end game. Yeah, but you do have to make that switch. Before you make it, it's very hard. Okay. So look at this amazing position. I mean, a few moves earlier, I'd locked up my opponent's bishop. That was very pleasant to just kill off that guy. You know, they're barely staying alive. This bishop is pinned to g2. I mean, there's constant h4 threats. Rest in peace, white bishop on g3. Yeah. Wait, what is this? This went back. Hold on. Oh, this is where we're starting. Bishop takes b3, ab3, rook b1. Let's see, more idea. Oh, I keep doing that as I try to read the chat. Okay. h4 does look good. Well, it does look good, but there's still a rook on a4. So we need to maybe prepare that in some way. f5 with the idea of f4, and if white plays f4, then e4. Well, okay. If f5, they actually cannot play f4, right? Because they lose their bishop. But maybe on f5, they might play rook a7. And on f4, bishop h4. So there is this idea of rook a7.
So can I just want to make sure everyone followed that. So you're saying if f5, the
yeah.
rook would take the pawn, and then after f4, you play bishop h4, and you're pinning the bishop on e7?
Yeah, that's possible, right? I mean, I guess there's also bishop e5, but I would say this one looks more attractive. Yeah, because it's not like mate yet. Yeah, rook here. Yeah, it's not mate, and we have a problem with the bishop on e7.
Totally.
So that is definitely, yeah, something I was looking at. And so we go back. Here we go. Okay, I'm seeing a couple of people starting to get this idea. And I have to say, you know, during the game, I just didn't think about it at all. And afterwards, my coach was like, just, you know, rook g4, you got to trade your opponent's best piece, you know? And,
rook g4,
you know, why
nice
did
job,
I
Pooh
never
Bear.
think of it?
SM Pooh Bear in the
Because
chat, got it.
I was just so focused on my beautiful rook working together with my bishop and, you know, bursting in on g2 at some point, right? I mean, I thought my rook was a really good piece. It had a lot of attacking potential on the g file, so it just never occurred to me that I could trade it off. But this was, in fact, a very nice and simple solution, guys. And again, you know, it comes down to the fact of like, what is okay in my opponent's position? I mean, certainly not the bishop or the knight, but their rook is their only active piece. It's the only source of counterplay. So if I play this move, they can't avoid the trade because of h4. In this position, it just leaves them kind of helpless. Yeah, of course I have to kind of decrease my attacking ambitions a little bit with that trade, right? I'm not going to win through an attack on the g file, but like, okay, the bishop's never getting better. I'm threatening very simple things like king e6, f5. Their bishop might get trapped, in fact, one day. I mean, if knight c1, which is one of their only legal moves, I mean, we can just keep improving. They really, I mean, like, can barely move anything. f5 is an idea. I can still activate. You know, there's still pawns on both sides of the board, so they're, even though it's like a little material, it should actually still be enough for black to win. So that was a kind of a nice solution, guys. And after that example for my game, you know, I forever remembered this idea that you got to trade your opponent's best piece. And that's why I noticed this Abdusatorov example, because I thought it was very similar to the kind of mistake that I made. And I realized it's actually an easy thing to miss. You know, when you feel like your pieces are really good, you know, it's easy to trade your bad pieces, right? I think that comes intuitively to us. But when you see like a good piece like this rook, it's maybe not so easy to give up on attacking ideas with her and go for a trade. But what happens in the game, I mean, was a little bit sad. I played a6. Okay. This was my second opportunity to trade the rook. Rook g4 was still a good move here. I missed this one again, so I'm going all in with these attacking ideas, you know, hoping to just use the g file. So she finds this move. And, you know, slowly but surely I get into trouble by letting her rook have stayed on the board. So I'm still kind of hoping I'm going to get to play f4, but things just never work out. I mean, it was a rapid game. And of course, at some point, things just kind of got out of control as I got low on time. But already here, you know, it's a big problem. And this one as well.
What tournament was this?
This was the Women's World Championship in
The World Cup?
Yeah, well, it's like the World Cup, except it's called the World Championship. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But it's the World Cup format. It's the matches with the tie breaks.
And so you were tied and you made it a tie break. Okay. Which round was this?
We were 1-1. We played a rapid game. I lost the first one with white, and I needed to win this game with black. So a draw was not good enough. And you know, I just kind of lost control of the game. You know, her rook got active, her knight got active, you know, and that was kind of it, you know. And then I just the game petered out to kind of like a disappointing draw, you know, from like a very dominating position. So that was the way I had to learn that lesson. But since then, I sort of think about that. Oh, we got a guest here. Okay. So, all right, guys, let's try another example. Give me 1 second.
I think someone's baby joined the video. Okay, Irina's just switching screens here, so the board will be back soon.
Okay, so this one was, I would say, kind of got crushed in this game by a lower rated player. So, you know, it was very memorable.
We can't see the board anymore, by the way.
Yeah, I haven't.
Oh, okay, just making sure.
Yeah. Here it is. So this is a tournament I played in Edmonton in Canada 6 years ago. And it's actually a very strong tournament. They would invite some world top players. I got to play some really good players there in the few years that I played. Like I played Wesley So and Nigel Short and Vasily Ivanchuk, all in this tournament. So this was certainly not the strongest opponent I met there, but turned out to be a difficult game for me. So let's see what happens. And when I saw this game, I was like, oh, I played the French defense. What was I thinking? I kind of learned it a little bit back at that time, but maybe I should stick to the Sicilian, my usual opening. Anyway, when we get into this King's Indian attack, I decide to play this line with Bishop d6 and Knight e7. Here I played this move, which, looking at it in preparation for this lecture, I was thinking, like, that's kind of strange, you know, this Bishop c7 move. I must have been improvising. But I actually, first of all, I think I was improvising, although it's been played many, many times by good players, including Karpov. So it's not all that strange. I mean, obviously I was concerned about this e5 move. I didn't want it to happen with tempo. b6 is another normal move here. So my opponent plays c3. And,
can I ask a question, actually?
Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
So when you play Bishop c7, does it actually stop e5? Because
no,
then
it doesn't stop it at all. I guess I just wanted to.
No, I meant, can you go Knight g6 after e5 and then you
mean like that? Maybe in this sense. Yeah, you know what? In this sense, it stops it, right? That's why he's playing.
That's what I meant. So they had to set it up.
Yeah. That's good. Good point. Right. So yeah, I mean, that's what I was trying to stop. He goes c3, and I got concerned about this idea again. You know, I didn't really like this e5 and d4 coming, you know, and sitting there with like less space and this the bad bishops. Like I was looking at it today, and you know, this move b6 is probably more appropriate than what I did. But I was concerned, yeah, about things like that, and maybe like that, and like that. And even this bishop, it's kind of a strange position for him, being blocked on all sides. So, what did I do? I played d4. It's a pretty dubious move. I mean, my idea was to stop then from going d4, but tactically it doesn't work very well. He found a good response. He went knight b3. And, you know, now my choices are either put my bishop on this very awkward square on b6 or go b6. So I played b6, he captured, I captured, and he plays e5. He has to play that, otherwise I'm going to play e5 and like support my space, have a very nice position. So this move is entirely expected, and now he's already got threats on the diagonal. So unfortunately I couldn't even play bishop b7 because of knight takes d4. So I played another kind of awkward move, rook b8. I mean, all of this is just in service of trying to get my pieces out with bishop b7. He goes here, bishop b7, and rook c1. So far, he's actually playing really well, just kind of flawlessly, mobilizing his pieces. And already here, there's these ideas of knight takes d4 on the board. Or, you know, wow. Bishop takes e7, and then knight takes d4. So I played this move, rook e8. That was all to defend this knight. So on bishop e7, I could go rook e7. Here he plays maybe not the best move. I think something like this. Actually, he could have just taken and played like that. You know, my bishop is quite bad on c7. That's the problem. I'm stuck with a bad piece. It's very hard to make it better. And he's actually about to just make simple moves attacking the d4 pawn. And if I play b5, he'll move back and my c5 square will be weak. So with kind of like a simple positional approach, I mean, white's definitely better in this position. Yeah, because when you have a bad piece and no way to fix that problem, I mean, you're gonna be worse. But he plays queen d2. Okay. Looks sensible, but okay, I got out of the pin. That had been sort of the goal. And he goes h4, and I here was quite happy. I was like, oh, I can go here. I'm finally out of that pin. I can attack the e5 pawn. You know, what does my opponent have planned? So he goes bishop f6. Kind of a surprising move, yeah? Okay, I was like, can this possibly work? I mean, he doesn't have that many pieces attacking my king. So, of course, you know, he wants to go h5 next, so I got to do something about this bishop. So I take it. Pawn is kind of dangerous. He's threatening to come in with mate on h6.
Can I ask you, when he played the sacrifice, did you think you were just winning, or you weren't sure?
No, I probably didn't think I was winning, but I was like surprised enough by it. I probably didn't think, I don't think I thought I was losing.
Okay.
You know, I didn't think my position looked like so bad. You know, my pieces are generally quite okay. So I think the sacrifice, that whole concept surprised me, like when he went into this direction, it felt like a little bit dubious, you know? Mm-hmm. But I mean, I had some sort of, you know, respect for it as well. You know, there's some danger to black's position. So I played bishop d8, and he has to save the pawn, so he goes here. And this was sort of the key moment, guys. Key moment, black to move. So I'll give you a little bit of time to sort of just get your bearings. I mean, obviously this is a position that's a little complicated from the tactical point of view. So you need to find an approach here.
Black to play, interesting. So my first thought is like queen d5, right? Because we're on the topic of exchanging pieces, and if we can trade queens, then we're just a piece up. But queen d5, the problem is white can go knight e5, And on knight e5, we would have to be ready to sack the queen, which I think is actually quite doable because we already have one piece. Maybe queen d5. Oh, queen d5, queen
Okay.
takes d5.
Someone is saying h6. Yeah,
Not
that's
working.
of course a move. You got to calculate, you know, queen h6, bishop f6, h5.
Yeah. Queen
It's a
d5
bit
is
of a
out.
calculation there.
e5 feels like a move for sure, but white's threat here is going to be h5. So we got to be dealing with h5. So h6 is a move for sure. Try to get the queen out, we'll go bishop takes f6. Can also play h5, yeah, with the same exact idea. Because h6, we're giving a pawn, bishop takes f6,
So,
h5, bishop g7, queen
queen
g5.
d5 to trade the queens. Why didn't I think of that? Well, I think that's because my rook is hanging. So I don't think that queen trade, losing a rook, is going to help me.
You're saying if queen d5, queen just takes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to see the very nice way I lost?
Oh no.
And then we can come back to this position. All right.
I haven't
let
even
me show
found
you
the
what
way
I,
to lose. Yeah.
Let me show you what I did, guys. I played king h8. So, I mean, okay, my opponent is threatening h5, right? I mean, that's sort of the immediate threat is h5. So, you know, my move is not really that great in a lot of different senses. I mean, when I was looking at it, I was like, what was I thinking? I mean, like, what was I planning on this move actually? Like, how exactly am I preparing for it? And I realized, okay, well, I must have been planning this, right? I was going to bring my rook in so I could like capture with the rook and play bishop takes f6. It's still not an amazing position for black, but like, you know, there's things I was probably missing here. Like there's an interesting move, knight e5. And just positionally, I mean, my king is weak. I mean, yes, I'm up right now. My rook is hanging. And, you know, even like knight d4, bishop f6, and like queen somewhere. It doesn't look necessarily all that amazing for me. But I mean, that's obviously what I was going for. Like I was going for this position with rook g8 and taking on g6 and taking on f6. But what did I miss? Well, my opponent really surprised me. I remember my surprise of this move. So not h5.
Wow.
But knight takes d4.
Oh.
What's the idea?
Well, knight takes d4 looks like white wants knight e5 and checkmate looming. That's brutal. Knight takes d4, knight e5. If queen moves,
So
knight
the
takes
idea
g6,
is that
check.
if I
Queen
capture,
h6.
right, there's this very pretty move, knight e5. So he does a deflection.
Oh, queen has no moves. Knight takes f7 is hanging.
And actually my queen barely has like any squares at all. I mean, I guess if I move it like to here, okay, well, I mean, there's this, and, well, queen h6 is not actually winning yet, right? Queen h6, there's bishop f6. How does he win here? Hold on. Queen here. Ah, he goes here. There you go. I think we can. Actually, wait, no. Let's try again. If he goes there, there's also this move, right? So it's not quite over. So what happens on queen b5? Where's the winning move? Knight g6. Knight g6, yes, but there's that. So what was it? Let's figure this out. We're not really threatening anything. White has a little bit, not threatening anything at all. Someone said, okay, quick, right? We lose the pawn, and this is not like checkmate.
Yeah, it's just glitching a little bit, but hopefully she'll.
Yeah, sorry about my internet connection, guys.
Oh, it's okay. It happens. We had some suggestion of just playing h5.
H5, yeah, that's possible. I can't believe there's nothing more like forcing. There must have been something I really didn't like in this line. So let's just look at this for one more second. Taking the pawn, going here. I mean, it's kind of interesting just to go back. Threatening F7.
Yeah, it looks pretty good too.
But H5 is actually strong. You know what? I would probably vote for that. Yeah, because you just want to take and just kind of break through like that. Yeah, so basically like this knight d4 move was the big problem that I missed. And, you know, I went here and then he started just kind of like doing these tactics. It's actually kind of a nice point here that I cannot capture this knight because of this move, which I also missed. Yeah, I also missed this very key move to h5. Where, you know, he's threatening knight g5.
Oh, wow.
And the reason this is better than this, I think this is what I was seeing, is that here I could take, and a knight g5 I could take. And he doesn't get to win my queen. So I missed a few tactics in this game. And basically now I'm going to lose my queen no matter what. Yeah, I mean, I'm up a rook, but knight g5 is unstoppable. And I had to kind of settle for some position like this, which was just not enough for me, and I wound up losing. So now let's go back, guys, to this initial position. This king h8 move was just too slow for this position. And I didn't recognize, you know, I didn't recognize the danger of this pawn, I think, sufficiently. So what other kinds of approaches could I have tried? I think the simplest one, and this is one that I don't think it occurred to me in the game, was that I could just do that. I don't have to try to save this knight. That was the thing. I could just expand in the center, let them play h5, and then go for the very important f6 pawn. It's like a very simple approach that requires actually almost no calculation. You just kind of give up the extra piece, take on f6, and have a very comfortable game. I guess even up a pawn. You know, and the one more approach I have in this position is this move h6. So this one requires a bit more calculation because here, you know, obviously I didn't go for it because I didn't like this position. And I thought like I probably got over here and I just was like, well, I'm losing a piece. I'm losing a piece. My king's going to be weak. And what I didn't realize is the tactics actually all work out for me because I can do either this or this. And basically always this f6 move saves me. Like there's no h6 move. Of course, without seeing f6 and all these lines, you know, it's kind of hard to go for this line. So I would say, you know, but at least, you know, if I could not calculate this properly, you know, e5 is not a very difficult move to calculate. So what is it that I got wrong conceptually, guys, that I did not play either of these moves? So conceptually, I didn't realize how dangerous that pawn was. I thought everything was under control, and intuitively I felt like I should be doing good. And And of course, missing my opponent's tactical ideas with like knight d4, I just didn't see the true danger in this position. And after this game, what my coach told me was like, you have to realize that this pawn is space. It's not just a pawn. It's not even just an attacking pawn. It's space. And space needs to be destroyed in chess. And I think after that lesson, I kind of understood how dangerous a pawn in f6 can be. It doesn't mean I completely, learned my lesson, but, next time I would definitely try to think of just how to get rid of such a pawn and not let it languish in my position, right? King h8 was just a little bit like,
Can I ask a question? Your audio, your video is freezing up a little bit. So even when you go king h8, you're not even trying to hold on to the knight there either, right? You're willing to give it up after h5?
Yeah, I am. That's true. I was willing to give it up, but I mean, I was trying to eliminate this pawn, I guess, in my own way. I was trying to. Yeah, that's true. I was trying to, but I just it's too slow, right? Because this move is like kind of a much faster way to make an attack on this pawn, I guess. That's the idea. I mean, yeah, I'm supporting d4, but also I'm preparing an actual forcing way to get rid of this pawn, right? Like this move is like slow because the pawn gets to stay there. There's like no attack on it immediately. Gotcha. I think that's the difference. Yeah, I mean, h6 also, both of these moves are linked by this theme that I really should have gone after this pawn immediately. If I had recognized how dangerous it was, I would have done it. How about bishop takes f6 and queen d8? Well, losing the bishop, I mean, I don't know if that's my preferred strategy. I'd probably like to keep it a little bit. Queen d8. So positionally, this is like not that great for me, yeah? Because my dark squares are a bit weak. What can he do? But I want to trade queens. Yeah, I want to force a queen trade. Yeah, the problem here is probably, well, first of all, let's check what this is, right? Let's check that.
You could take with the other rook.
You want to keep it protected. Okay.
Yeah, to keep the bishop on d7 protected.
But here, yeah, this move is going to be a little annoying, I think.
h5, h6, very annoying.
h5? Yeah. Let's go h5. h5, poor knight, forced back. I mean, h6, okay, there's knight f5, so maybe h6 is a little much. Some way to like take advantage of these weak squares. Maybe even knight g5 to e4 is somewhat interesting. Knight g5. No, I mean, you can definitely, like, I have to be precise here because, yeah, like, you can definitely fight back on these dark squares if you put, like, this pawn there, you just try to control that. It's not, like, so trivial. So I agree. This needs to be looked at. Let's figure this out. Bishop takes f6, queen takes, and queen d8. I mean, there is queen g5, I guess, as an approach. Unless, there's no tactics. Queen g5 is an interesting way to like offer the queen trade if we think that. Actually, you know what? Maybe it's not so bad. Maybe like that. Yeah, even this was interesting to me. Kind of capturing towards the center, getting some space, but maybe like that. Just opening up the bishop right away. On the other hand, yeah, if you go there, there might be like, you got to calculate h5. Knight e5, like that. Okay, let's try this one again. Queen takes, rook takes. Is h5 a good move or not a good move? It depends on how we evaluate this knight, yeah? Do we think he's good there or he's bad there and needs to be kicked away? I mean, I'm sorry, that he's good there, we can kick him away. If he's bad there, bad there, we can leave him there. That's what I'm
What if we play rook c4?
gonna say. Rook c4. So there's no e5, and you're just kind of slowly going for this pawn, yeah? b5 really weakens these squares. You'll be very happy. Bishop a6 we don't have. So how much of a threat is that? Knight takes, just kind of wins a pawn, although the pawns are a bit weak, yeah?
But it seems if we compare this line to the line that you looked at in the game, the other one was much better. Like that was better for black, right? And this one,
yeah,
you're
this
fighting.
one, yeah, maybe black is like, yeah, I agree. Black is trying to survive. I mean, in this line, we are definitely, this is not a maximalist approach for black. Like black gave up a very nice bishop in potential, and he's trying to survive. Yeah, I agree. That's sort of, so basically, I probably had a lot of ways to survive. But I found one big way to lose.
I do want to warn you.
Yeah.
I know you had to leave in 20 minutes, and
Yes.
I think you have an example of doing something right that you learned from these games. So let's look at your good.
Okay, let's get to that.
Yeah.
But before that, guys, so basically what I wanted to explain about this example, I mean, just to kind of understand what this pawn represents, to see the danger, and to recognize it not just as an attacking pawn, but as like a form of space. And just like, you know, normally you when you see space, you try to undermine it, trade it off. I think that's kind of a helpful approach regarding this pawn, and that's what I didn't carry out in this game. I didn't pay enough attention, I think, to this pawn and how to get rid of it quickly. And all right, so more examples, guys. This game. It's more like a psychological example. And to give you a little backstory about this game, probably we can go to somewhere around, you know, this moment. So the backstory to this game is I was playing a tournament in Gosdal in Norway in 2007. And it was a really strong set of round robin tournaments. I played in them for a couple of years in a row in 2007, 2008. And actually in 2007, Magnus Carlsen was the top seed in this tournament. And I started off really well. I beat Gawain Jones and then Alexei Dreyev, and then I drew Lajos Portish and I think Rosenthalis. Yeah, so I had 3 out of 4 playing, you know, people who were like a lot higher rated than me. And I was at that time, you know, trying to make my grandmaster norms. So it was, yeah, Portish was playing. I know that was kind of a cool experience, guys, because I got to play like a real chess legend. I mean, I guess I got to play 2 people from that generation in my life. Anyone want to guess the other person? I'm pretty sure it was only 2. I mean, I can say Arthur Bisgeier, but still, I think Portish and this other person are more like.
Does Korchnoi count?
Yeah, he counts. He counts.
Is that the one you're talking about? Korchnoi wasn't happy with your game.
No, he wasn't. Wow. So yeah, go ahead, Greg.
Oh no, Korchnoi is he's famous for when he beats you, he tells you how great you are and how great you played. And when he loses to you, he tells you what an idiot you are. So he told Irina what an idiot she was after the game. Which means that Irina beat him.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, actually, I played Portish. I mean, he was, I guess, like over 70 years old. He was still playing quite well. And actually, I felt like playing that game, I actually felt like, you know, I could feel I was playing a very good player, which is like, I mean, obviously, when you play any GM, you feel that way. But I felt like a little that in a special way playing against him, that he was doing things I wasn't expecting. And then I was realizing like, oh, that's deep. You know, so he was kind of an old man. And I was like, oh, that's why he was one of the top players in the world for decades, you know. So I did have that nice experience playing Portish. And that was probably one of his last events, you know, because he's much older now. But yeah, so that was 2007. And so I had 3 out of 4. And I was playing this GM from Norway. So this is probably actually the weakest player I'd played thus far, round 5. And of course, he's still very good. But at some points in this game, guys, you can see this position. We have a pawn structure. You know, I got a space advantage. It's very famous, this pawn structure from the second Fischer-Spassky match in '92. They played this one, I think, a few times, and with Spassky being on the white side of this pawn structure. So that was you know, something, of course, I was familiar with. And in general, I like positions like this as white a lot. You know, number one, you got space. Number two, you got bishop pair. What's my favorite things in chess. And number three, you're just better. So, you know, what's not to like? Somewhere around here, okay, we play some moves. You know, I played g4. I can't remember which point. It might have been around here. It might have been a couple of moves later, like where maybe I may play like rook e1 and offer a draw, you know. So you see, I offer a draw, and why did I do that? I guess I just felt like, oh, doing so well in the tournament. I got 3 out of 4, like I'm on track for my norm. And, you know, okay, my position, you know, of course it's playable and maybe it's a little bit better. But, you know, draw is good enough, right? And we play this game, guys. He declined. And, you know, okay, we start playing. I mean, at some point, I even realized, like, maybe even I declined the draw for, like, or at least a repetition. He went there, I went back, he went there, I did something different. I was definitely trying to win this game at this point. And I had a big advantage. I mean, with that space, just like now I have 2 pawns on the 5th rank. But the way it worked out, guys, I did wind up losing this game. It was a very long game, and I gave my opponent some counterplay. My king got weaker, and then he kind of invaded from the b file. It turned out his knight was quite a good defender. His bishop was really good on that outpost, and I wound up losing. You know, so it doesn't really matter so much, you know, the moves here. But the important part is sort of the takeaway, like why I think this game was significant for me in my life, because you know, the first thing is that I felt like I got what I deserved. You know, it didn't really matter that I managed to have a good position and I was close to winning after I offered a draw. And of course I tried to win, but the point is I felt like, you know, the draw offer was a big mistake, you know, because there was like, other than my fear of losing or spoiling my good result, like there was no other objective reason for it, right? I mean, my position was good. There was a lot of play left. I mean, the game itself was not going to guarantee me anything. So, you know, I looked at it as a lesson that you just cannot do things like that. You know, and by the way, it was a very bitter lesson for me because after having 3 points out of 4, and after losing this game, I lost 2 more games in a row. And those 2 games were just like completely, you know, a result of this one. Like I just psychologically, it was very difficult for me to get over this game. You know, so I lost 3 games in a row, and then I had to play Magnus Carlsen. So, you know, it was very close to getting 4 in a row. I was like, but, you know, I actually got myself together for that game. I don't know. Sometimes, you know, you got to pull yourself together, and when you really feel like you're just going to get destroyed if you don't. And he was just winning the tournament. So yeah, that game I managed to stop, you know, the bleeding in after 3 losses, and I won my last round. So it kind of like, you know,
Did you beat Magnus or draw?
No, that was a draw. Yeah, it was a draw in a Nimzo. I was white. So yeah, that story, guys, in my life, this game is memorable for that reason, because I did learn my lesson, and I tried not to do that. And I would say pretty much have never done that again. There was one time in my life where I offered a draw early on. It was also at a special moment. And this one, though, was not really me doing that because I wanted to. I actually did something I really didn't want to. You know, I was playing for my last GM norm, and my coach said, you know, I was white in my last round. So my coach was like, okay, play the exchange Slav and offer a draw. I was like, no, I can't offer a draw. I mean, look, I've learned these lessons. Like, I'm not going to offer a draw. You know, he's like, offer a draw because, you know, when he declines, it's going to be easier for you to play. You see, and I did that, and he did decline, and and then everything was so clear, right? Because then you just know your opponent wants to beat you. You never play for a draw. You never have those questions. And then I just won, and I exceeded my GM norm by half a point. So, but you know, that was a little bit different because, you know, that one I really just listened to my coach, and but overall, you know, of course, the lesson is that you should play chess and not give in to your fears against, you know, higher rated players, or even trying to achieve some sort of results. You know, I mean, the result will come if you kind of push yourself. So that's my story, my shameful draw offer.
Wow. So you heard it there, guys. You shouldn't offer draws.
I just linked him to your game with Magnus.
Yeah. So do
Did
you guys
do you ever play him again, or just that one time?
Only in Blitz. I only played 1 Blitz game against him, you know, since then.
Cool. Yeah, he's a good player. That must be exciting.
Yeah.
So I think you have 10 minutes left, but you have a moment where you did something really good, right?
Oh,
Oh, did you not? You just set up I thought you told me you did, where you kind of like.
No, I do. I can absolutely show you things that I did something good in.
Let's see something real good for 10 minutes.
Real good. All right.
Yeah, real good.
Real good. Okay. Let me find it.
Like.
Well, I'll show you guys something that I like to do in chess. And for me, like doing this gives me some particular pleasure. And so I'm going to show you one of my favorite examples. Okay, here we go. Let's see. This was actually a rapid game at the Tuesday Night Masters. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
Was probably there.
Yeah, tournament Greg co-hosted. That's right. No, but this was way after Greg.
Oh, the new version of it. Okay.
Yeah. So this was in 2000 and what, like 2018 probably? Yeah, 2018. So I was playing a master level player, guys. I mean, not like the strongest player ever, but you know, very competent. Okay, I see we're having a discussion about who's going to be host. How about back to chess? All right. Yeah, here I'm playing this little ready system, something I've picked up over the years. I like to play these systems. Sometimes they're more flexible. You know, you kind of get out of theory against people who like play the Slav or Queen's Gambit declines. So just a very flexible setup where you don't really fight for an opening advantage, and but you can outplay your opponent. So here we go. My first active move of the game, I guess, knight e5 and e4, finally putting a pawn in the center. Okay, so we don't want to trade off all the pieces. So at some point, even though it blocks my bishop, got to decline the trade. And overall, yeah, here, I mean, I was, you know, fairly happy with the way this game was going. I got some space. I mean, of course, his bishop is not terrible like it would be on c8. You know, his bishop is pretty good, so it makes it competitive. But he made this very big mistake. Yeah, he took on c4. That move really surprised me. I mean, kind of just giving up space for no reason. So, you know, now I'm like extremely happy. I guess I should be just winning positionally. So he goes knight b6. Well, his idea and his hopes are pretty clear. Knight b6. Actually, I think I could have played a4. Could have been a nice prophylactic move, gaining more space on the queen side. But I played rook d1 with the idea that on knight a4, I'm going to go bishop a1, save my bishop from the trade, and keep the pawn protected. So he goes here. And now I play like a really bad move, guys. It's kind of amazing how bad this is. I mean, I could have just played the simple knight e4, right? Like that. Just like what could be more natural than improving the knights? If he takes it, I mean, it's a strong knight, but he basically has no counterplay, right? Eventually, I'm just going to, I can even pull the bishop back, make a battery, provoke some weaknesses on the king side, play like h4. White has a huge advantage. But instead of that, I was very tempted by the c5 move, right? What was I tempted by? I think, you know, of course, my coach has always mentioned to me, you know, 2 pawns on the 5th rank give you a big space advantage. So I'm sure that was in my mind, but I didn't apply this very well. I mean, yes, I mean, at the same time, I really wanted that square on d6, and he goes knight d5. I go knight c4, he goes b6, knight d6, and I thought, well, such a knight, surely I must win the game with such a knight on d6. And he goes rook f8. And suddenly I'm like, well, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure that the knight on d6 is going to win me the game, because I've given him an outpost too. He's got a good knight, a good bishop, and my bishop on b2 is pretty bad. So I finally realized that I had messed up, and I started thinking about how to solve this problem. And I felt like I won the game on the next move. So remember, guys, it's like a part of chess is psychology. When I say I won the game on the next move, I don't mean in a mathematical sense, right? Like there's no way white can win the game in one move. But essentially, you know, just like I lost that game with the draw offer, in this game, you know, you kind of make one move and it really set the game going in the right direction again. So let's see if you guys can figure this out. It's white's turn to move.
Since you won the game in one move. I see suggestions for knight e4, f4, bishop e4. Well, I don't like knight e4 because that allows black to trade off their light squared bishop for the knight, and then we lose that d6 grip. Whereas if black has to take on d6, then we'll get a really strong pawn. Rook c1, reasonable move. f4 is certainly reasonable as well, just trying to
Did
play
I play the
f1.
stylish bishop c1? Well, but bishop c1 is a stylish exchange sack, and while I agree with you that I would have some, you know, compensation there with my bishop opening up, I don't know. That was too stylish. Bishop e4. Bishop e4, bishop e4, queen e4. We are blundering, Sarvanya, that they're going to take on c5 and our bishop's going to hang. So seeing the opponent's ideas, guys, when you're contemplating your moves and you're doing calculations and trying to see your opponent's kind of best moves is that's the way to do it.
Yeah, we want to watch
F4,
out, guys,
F5 probably.
for b takes
Maybe
c5.
I definitely like that plan, and I definitely thought that my play was sort of on the king side, so you know, where I have a space advantage.
F4 makes sense.
So Jen and Greg, do you guys have any guesses? Queen g4, Daniel. We're trying not to blunder that bishop on the open file. See, guys, and we're missing the opponent's ideas. Take some bishop c1. Well, that's interesting, but yeah, that opens up a lot of various possibilities to the opponent, including even maybe, I would say, taking on d4, Daniel, and allowing bishop h6 and then going bishop g6 because your center is gone, right?
Maybe bishop
a1. A3 has that same sort of problem.
I like bishop a1, guys. Yeah, bishop a1.
Bishop takes d5. Well, you know, I wasn't in such a hurry to give away such a bishop. You know, I mean, I need my bishop too. I mean, I know their knight is strong, but my bishop is also important to me. Twitch thinks it's bishop a1. You know, that's interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
Lila, why do you, what are you thinking though? What's the idea of queen d2?
Suggestion for queen d2. Yeah, maybe stop knight b4.
Okay, guys. Well, I'm going to tell you my thinking, right? I mean, basically, when I realized things were getting out of control, why? I mean, because my opponent wants to take on c5 and, you know, activate the queen, get some sort of activity, maybe rook b4, get some play on the b file. And that's what was bothering me. And so I came up with this move, queen d2. Very humble little move, right?
Nice.
I mean, all that I'm doing is I'm stopping the actual idea of activating that queen. You know, I mean, black can still stay in the game. I mean, the computer was offering some interesting ideas here, like a5. You know, and by the way, guys, it's another interesting psychological moment. You see why I'm saying I won the game here, because when you take away your opponent's main ideas, the main thing he's counting on, it's very difficult for people to like switch immediately to a different mindset and be like, oh, I'm going to look for a totally new idea, right? So to be honest, it's not like what happened in this game is all that surprising. It's actually a very typical scenario of what happens when you take away your opponent's ideas. He kind of can't get it, you know, can't make that switch and winds up losing without too much of a fight. Yeah. So a5 is a very different type of move than anything I'm sure my opponent was hoping for. And I was just like looking at this, for example, if I go f4, he can try it b5. If I go g4, f5. I mean, the game could have been pretty crazy like that. And like in this position, even this move, like so the suggestion of the computer. I mean, it's all because my bishop is like absolutely terrible. Normally, I try not to, get left with bad pieces like that, guys. But in this game, I was so taken with the idea of 2 pawns on the 5th rank and the knight outpost on d6 that I actually did that to my bishop, and that's why some of these lines are possible for black. But anyway, my opponent, didn't really think of these new sorts of avenues of play. He played queen c7, which is just like the only thing he could think about doing with the queen. I played king h1 in order to play f4 without any sorts of like tactics. And obviously you can see all of his moves. He just doesn't really know what to do. Actually, probably bishop d8, not an obvious move at all, but maybe with the idea of queen a5 could still be like an option for him. He goes here, I go f4, starting my king side play, and then he kind of blunders with this, and yeah, it just kind of falls apart here. But you see, guys, that's what happens.
Queen
It's
D2.
very
That's killer.
unsurprising course of events. So I would say for me, I took some pleasure in this move queen d2 because, especially in a rapid game, you still kind of like taking the time to think about what your opponent wants and making this very quiet little move, but quiet but poisonous, So I enjoyed that. I'm sure Jen is not surprised. She knows that I love things like that.
Mm-hmm. So I know you said you had to leave at 6:10. It is 6:10 now, so I don't want you to be late for.
That's okay. I got a couple of minutes, Greg. I mean, if the kids have questions,
Can we ask? Yeah, does anyone want to ask any questions? They can send them directly to you, or they can just post them in the chat.
Yeah, nice lesson on prophylaxis.
Well, how old were you when you won your first U.S. championship?
I was 14. I was a freshman in high school.
Wow. And Jen was also playing that tournament with you, right?
Yeah. We had a game in the Grunfeld.
Yeah, I remember that game. Irina got 8.5 out of 9. I had a pretty good result. I was one of the lowest rated players in the tournament, and I guess the youngest after Irina. And I definitely had a plus score, but somehow nobody remembered that. That was a very memorable tournament for Irina's domination.
Do you play any video games?
Oh, that's great. When I was little, guys, I loved Super Mario Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
I did play that. I like Yoshi, getting on his back and running around with him and jumping on things. Yeah, but no, I don't play any video games.
So you don't play Among Us. That's everyone's wondering if you play Among Us.
Among Us? What is that a name of a game?
It's a game where there's like 2 people who are lying to everyone, and everyone else is trying to figure out who those liars are. It's a very popular game these days.
Never heard about it. Among Us and Roblox. Okay, I see that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Someone asked me how did I go from IM to GM, yeah?
That's what I want to know.
I think that was the question. How
can I ask
Yeah,
that?
probably they sent that directly
to you. IM to GM, yeah. Yeah, it took me a while. I mean, honestly, don't follow my path, guys. It took me like 13 years to do it. So I think I became an IM when I was like 16. And I made my first GM norm when I was 17. But then I was like close to 29 when I got my title. So, I mean, there were there were a number of tournaments where I was like half a point short of a GM norm. Probably even some that you played in, Greg.
Probably.
Maybe like Generation
You played
Chess.
a bunch of times.
Yeah. So there were some tournaments, I was half a point short, and I didn't get my rating up to 2,500. And finally, in 2013, of course, during those years, guys, I did get a lot of experience. I mean, I kind of traveled around the world and played a lot of strong players, like this tournament in Gibraltar that we mentioned, where I played Victor Korchnoi, and I played a lot of other good players. So, somehow it came together, finally. And I had a good tournament in Baku in Azerbaijan, and also in a very strong field where I played like 8 GMs, and that was where I made my last norm.
How did it feel to finally get that GM title next to your name?
Oh, well, okay, I can show you guys. I'm going to just illustrate this one to you because I feel like a picture is going to be better than my explanation. And I actually recently found this one. So let me see if I can find it online. I wrote an article about Baku, Jen, back when you were the editor, right, of Chess Life Online.
Yeah, I need to find that article.
And I wrote that article, and I just recently got reminded that it was it got chosen as the best article of 2013, which I completely forgot.
I linked it in the chat.
Yeah, here it is, guys. So basically, I wrote this article about my experience, and if you guys are interested in what that whole experience was like, I mean, you can take a look. But the final picture sort of sums it up. I talk about all my games. By the way, this was the final position of my final game against Grandmaster Durar Bailey. And that was it. Yeah. Oops.
I like that picture at the end.
Yeah, that was it, guys. I mean, so you asked me how it feels to finally do it. I mean, you know, that's what it feels like. And you know what this reminds me of, Jen? It was also reminds me of the U.S. Women's, championship this year, right? When you said make that chair, what is it, swirl or something. When I got up, I was obviously so happy, and it's that same kind of feeling, guys. It looks like to me when I see it, I'm like, it's a very, that's my expression at those really happy moments. So yeah, I was extremely happy to make my GM title.
We have a question about language learning. They said in a recent class, you said you were learning a language, but you weren't going to tell because you weren't good enough at it yet. Are you good enough at it now?
I'm getting better. My teacher says I'm doing well.
Can you tell us what language it is?
No.
No? Spanish?
Okay, I'll give you only one clue. Every class I do, I'm only going to give you one clue, and eventually I'll tell you. All right, it's much harder than Spanish.
It's got to be Mandarin.
All right, that was my one clue, guys.
All right.
Yeah. But yeah, guys, it's kind of fun for me to be a student in something as well, and I try to be a good student, trying to do my homework and like not coming to the class empty-handed, just like the way as a chess teacher, I feel like, when my students come and I know they don't do any work, every teacher wants to see their students working independently and preparing for the lesson. So I try as much as I can to be a student like that.
And so that means this, Jen, go ahead.
Sorry. You already speak Russian, obviously, and then some French as well, right?
Yeah, my French is not so bad. I mean, I would say I lived in Paris for half a year, and so yeah, I got pretty good.
Can you say one sentence in French?
What sentence do you want me to say?
Whatever you want to say.
I will crush you in the Sicilian.
I don't know how to say I will crush you. That's a little hard, Jen.
Say something nice about all of us.
Okay, yes. This is a wonderful class.
Yeah.
Next time, guys, next time. So I got to run, guys,
all
to
right.
my next class. Thank you so much. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks so much for thanks so much for being here. We really hope you'll do a class with us again soon so we can figure out this language mystery and have a great new year. And happy birthday. Your birthday just happened, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Happy birthday.
Thanks, Greg. And it's going to be Jen's birthday soon, so we're going to get to congratulate her.